Disc 4.
Step 7. Old friends, new friends. Getting to know your ex-partner's new partner. Johnny come lately, the new kid in town. The Eagles, new kid in town. Like to get to know you well. Howard Jones, like to get to know you well. We all stand together. Paul McCartney and the Frog Chorus, we all stand together. This is a thorny area. For some people, the mere thought of their ex being with someone else is like a red rag to a bull. The steam starts to pour out of their ears and we all have to run for cover. It can be like watching a scene from The Incredible Hulk. Not the original and rather lame TV series with Bill Bixby, but the recent film adaptation with the man from Brad Pitt's reinterpretation of Troy in it. Men can get tamping mad at the thought of their ex with a new man, and will sometimes let their feelings get the better of them with a dreadful display of foul-mouthed yelling. Often it'll go further than that and escalate into all-out, full-on, man-to-man violence, with both parties coming away battered and bruised, with the lady in question left crying and shaking on the sidelines, yelling, "No, Geoff, leave it, please leave it, he's not worth it." Why? I think it's a sense of self-protection, a fear that any new lover will be privy to all your secrets. The horrible thought that your ex-wife will tell the new man intimate details of your private moments that you had considered precious and sacred. That walk along the river when you proposed to her, the weekend in Cornwall when it rained so much you couldn't leave the room, or, God forbid, the holiday in Cyprus when you met Dave and Carla from Leeds. You all had too much to drink, and events took an unexpected turn. You'd never do something like that again, and it was completely out of character, more to do with the heat than anything else. The fear that he will then spread this newfound knowledge amongst his friends at the squash club, and they in turn will hand it to Peter Lewis in IT, and he will post the tape on the internet, setting up a pay-per-view site similar to the terrible ones dedicated to Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee and Paris Hilton and her boyfriend. The ensuing notoriety leads to you losing your job. Your friends and family soon follow suit, and you're left homeless and penniless, until, as a last resort, you commit a random act of violence, what I call going postal, in a public place. You are then sentenced to a brief spell in prison, while inside you become addicted to drugs. On your release you roam the streets with nothing but a dog for friendship, finding shelter where you can on a night-to-night basis. These are all rational fears, but trust me, they needn't come to pass. Your ex-partner's new partner needn't be an enemy. He can be a friend. He can be a partner for you as well as your wife, in the sense that Starsky is Hutch's partner, if only for the sake of the children, even if there are no children. This is a person, man or woman, it doesn't matter which, probably a man about 6 foot, dark hair, glasses when he drives, who rightly or wrongly has attracted the person with whom A. You were once in love, B. You thought was the perfect match, C. With whom you once saw your future. Maybe you still do, in which case this is going to be a painful chapter, although who's to say that you won't get back together? They say it, obviously, but they would, wouldn't they? What do they know? They don't understand her like you do. To an extent their families say it, to a lesser extent your family says it, and of course the children chip in now and again, but that doesn't mean they're right. After all, you can lead a horse to water. Whatever you do, don't rule it out just because others say it's impossible. 30 years ago, they said man would never colonize Saturn. The point is this. Already, even before meeting him, you know that you have similar tastes. You are attracted to the same things. You both saw beauty in the woman he now calls his. You've got something in common. Commonality. The cornerstone foundation of any friendship. Who knows, you could have loads more in common, many shared interests and opinions that could draw you together to bond, but you won't know until you become proper friends. But be careful, like any courtship, you'll need to tread gently towards your target, gathering information about him along the way, before finally approaching with a fully extended hand of friendship, thus retaining the element of surprise. How do you do this? It sounds a little daunting. Quite a challenge, you might say. Well, relax. There's never been a better time to gather background information on a suspect. In the old days, you'd have been stuck with making discreet inquiries amongst mutual friends, wandering the streets with a fading photograph, asking questions in his local pub, and sitting outside his flat in your car. Nowadays, everything is different. You can find out reams of information, highly personal information, about a person from the comfort of your own home, and all you need is a computer. That's right, the internet. We're all familiar with search engines like Google, but did you know that there are services that are specifically tailored to finding out more about a person? So, fingers on mice, and off we go. 192.com, a wonderful service that can help you build up a more rounded picture of the new man in her life. Peoplesite.com, predominantly for runaways, but don't rule it out. Firstlocate.co.uk, no success, no fee. iklocate.com, names, addresses, births, deaths and marriages. Familyfinding.co.uk, get the lowdown on his family. Peoplespot.com, they can help you find his phone number. Webdetective.com, public and criminal records, FBI, anything about anyone. Where's Wally? Not a website, but an amusing book-based game that can take your mind off things and help you to see the funny side of your awful situation. It's a bit of fun. Piecing it together. I'm offering you a psychological profile of Buffalo Bill, Anthony Hopkins, The Silence of the Lambs. Just like the early days of a new friendship at primary school, getting to know your ex-partner's new partner is a wonderful, exciting process. So why not break the ice with a game of conkers? Not really, that would be ridiculous. But finding a common ground, an interest that you both share, other than your ex-wife, is an excellent idea when you're searching for ways to cement the friendship in its early stages. Right from the outset, there are some very basic questions that need answering. What does he like to do? Who does he like to do it with? Would he like to do it with you? This information can be harvested from the smallest seed of knowledge. All you need to know is where he went to school. With that little nugget, it's straight back on the internet and a log-in with our chums at Friends Reunited. Zoom straight in on his school. Calculate the year. You'll need to know his age. Think back to the lively conversation with your then-wife. Is it because he's younger than me? He's not younger than you. He's... Insert age. And then register. Choose a nondescript, plausible name like Paul, John or Mark. In fact, any of the disciples will do. Steer clear of Judas. Now start to make postings on the message board, but be careful. Don't just jump in head first. Do a little research. Read up on the teachers so that you can appear knowledgeable. You don't want your comment on Mr. Johnson's geography to not ring true. Read up on him. Find out that he wore horn-rimmed glasses and then join in the general banter with postings like, "What about old Johnson? He used to wear glasses." By doing this, you will slip into the cyber school community unnoticed and with no suspicions raised. Then, and only then, you can start to investigate your victim. That's not the right word for it. Suspect. That's not good either. Quarry, equally bad. All right, your wife's new boyfriend. Well, there again, I'm wide of the mark. She's your ex-wife's new boyfriend. It's very difficult, and I'm not even personally involved. Heaven only knows how it is for you. It's such an emotive subject, you could write a book on it. Helping with inquiries. Now that you are in under the wire, as it were, it's time to get down to some serious detecting. The full Miss Marple. First of all, there's lots of knowledge to be gained without asking a single question. Simply by listening, or in this case, reading. Read all the things that are said about your man by the other ex-pupils. Try and build up a picture. Speaking of pictures, click on the Pictures section and see if you can spot him in an old school photo. He'll have changed a lot since then, but that doesn't matter. We're trying to build up a fully rounded portrait of the man. If you spot him, print off the photo, blow it up, and put it on the wall of a room at home for consultation at a later date. Slowly, your room can begin to take on the appearance of an incident room from Cracker or Taggart. Soon you'll want some more recent shots to add to your ever-growing gallery, and for that, there's no substitute for a method mentioned a little earlier in this step, sitting outside their house in your car. Sometimes the old ones are the best. This is a technique that has been employed in detection for years and years. We all remember Paul Michael Glaser and David Soul sat in their big red Ford Gran Torino outside the home of a suspected drug baron or small-time crook. In this sense, the whole thing can be a bit of fun as you imagine yourself as an LA cop on a heist. If you fancy this course of action, here are some tips to help you along. Stake out. Bring a book. Take a camera along with you. Something with a long lens will make you feel the part, but nowadays you can get good prints from a range of reasonably priced cameras, many of them digital. The advantage with digital is that you can see the picture straight away and decide whether you got a good shot at his face and want to keep it or not. You also get instant prints with the old Polaroid One, the camera where the picture slides out of the front as soon as you've taken it. Be warned though, this is a very noisy camera, and you are on covert operations. Also, it doesn't have a zoom, so for the sort of thing we're planning, it's not suitable. If you've gone ahead and bought a Polaroid already, not to worry. It'll be perfect for when you've got to know your subject a little better and want some instant snaps at parties, nights out, etc. Carry a map or A to Z. That way, if someone asks why you've been sat there for the last 8 hours, you can say that you're looking for Elmbank Gardens. For that real LA stakeout feel, place some fast food containers on the dashboard. Above, take a dictaphone and record yourself saying the sort of things that American police might say, like, all units, or zebra 3, zebra 3. If you have the confidence, try it out in an American accent. Zebra 3, zebra 3. Play the recording back to yourself when things are slow. Bring another book. It's important to remember that all the stages I've described so far in getting to know your ex-partner's new partner take place before you've even met the man. You may have had a brief meeting depending on the overall timescale of the breakdown of your marriage, while picking up some belongings or children at the house. For our purposes, though, we will assume or pretend that you haven't properly met. The slate is clean. That way we come to the situation without history, what young people call baggage. Of course, in some situations, you may know the man in question all too well. What do you mean by that, Keith? All right, I'm talking about when your wife leaves you for someone that you already know. Someone with whom you already have a relationship. A friend, a family member, or in some cases, what I consider the worst of all, the cruelest blow, your best man. Imagine that, losing your wife to your best man. Appalling. It sounds like a plot from Emmerdale, but it does happen in the real world, and actually, it needn't be all that bad. This is a letter I received from Alan Thompson, a 39-year-old hospital porter from Nottingham. He got married to Lisa, his girlfriend of 6 years, in a super ceremony in Dublin, Lisa's hometown. 3 weeks later, he was devastated to discover that Lisa had been seeing Patrick, the best man. To make matters worse, the relationship had only begun on the wedding night after Alan passed out due to mixing alcohol and a strong course of antibiotics. He's now in pieces and doesn't know what to do. Over to Alan. Dear Keith, hello, my name is Alan Thompson. I'm a 39-year-old hospital porter from Nottingham. I recently married my girlfriend Lisa, whom I've been seeing for 6 years, in a super ceremony in Dublin, her hometown. 3 weeks later, I was devastated to discover that she had been seeing my best man Patrick and that the affair had begun on my wedding night after I passed out when I mixed alcohol and the antibiotics I was on. I am in pieces, although my infection has cleared up and I don't know what to do. Can you please help me? Regards, Alan Thompson. Oh, Alan. What a heartbreaking letter. I feel for him and I'm sure you do too. But in a way, he's lucky. What do you mean, Keith? All right, he's already on such good terms with his ex-partner's new partner that he chose to make him his best man. So much of the work has been done as he now moves into this new phase of his life. The friendship with Patrick is there. It's solid. All that needs to happen now is to do what psychologists call reframing, seeing the situation in a new, better light. Our old friend Paul McKenna is a keen advocate of this technique. In his fantastic book, Change Your Life in 7 Days, as early as day 3, he's shouting from the rooftops that your experience of life is primarily affected by the perspective you view it from. Depending on the meaning we give to situations, we will feel and behave differently. Powerful stuff, and just the lifeline that Alan is looking for as he bobs about in the sea of heartbreak, trying to make his pyjama bottoms into a buoyancy aid. As Paul says, and as I hinted at just a moment ago, all Alan needs to do is to look on his situation in a new way, a different way, a better way. If needs be, a false way. It doesn't matter, so long as it makes him feel better. Oh, but Keith, poor Alan must be devastated. What possible positives can he take away from this disastrous situation? Okay, I'll tell you. By the way, you say disastrous, I say interesting. There are many positives up for grabs. These are just a few that I've come up with off the top of my head. It's an impressive list, especially when you consider that in this area of knowledge, I don't really know what I'm talking about. Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3. Ian Dury and the Blockheads. Reasons to be cheerful. Admiring the view, or how can I see this in a better light? You've been selfless, putting your friend first. Well done. You've been Cupid and shot your arrow with aplomb. Your brief marriage has left you free to play the field. You'd never have visited Dublin if you hadn't got married. If you're now off the antibiotics, you've got your health. You're free to concentrate on your work at the hospital. Great news for the sick, elderly and infirm. Many people, as they get married, at the actual moment of saying, I do, experience a worrying stab of doubt. Maybe you did, in which case, phew. Suddenly, through the use of reframing and putting a good light on things, we begin to see Alan's situation quite differently. And I'm left wondering whether I'm not the only one who actually rather envies the plucky Nottingham lad and wishes I could swap places with him. Not a wife swap, but a life swap. There we are, TV companies. How about that for an idea? It's a zinger. You could get Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen to present it, or if he's not available, Nick Knowles and Lowry Turner. 2 pros, who as far as I can tell are yet to put their names to a shoddy, inferior television programme. I must stress, though, that this scenario, your wife running off with your best man, is a most uncommon one, and is unlikely to happen to you. Nonetheless, it's worth considering, if you're about to tie the knot, perhaps asking one of your less physically prepossessing friends to fill the role of best man, just to be on the safe side. Filling in the blanks. So let's not worry about BMB, best man betrayal. Let's get back to building up our psychological profile of the new man in our life. So far, we've researched his school days, begun the compilation of a dossier, hung around outside his house and taken photos, built up the beginnings of a gallery of shots. This is good. It gives us an idea of our subject before we move in for the kill. Please note that move in for the kill is simply an expression. I would never advocate murder, what the Americans call homicide, other than in the most extreme conditions, and even then only in self-defense. I'm sorry if that disappoints you, if you're a bit of a gung-ho, all-guns-blazing type, but there it is. I am essentially a peace-loving man at heart and will not sanction murder. No, when I say move in for the kill, I'm actually describing something very lovely, which will be of great benefit both to you and to your ex-partner's new partner, forming the friendship. But how do you start? How do you fire the opening salvo? Your move. Yes, that's the beautiful thing about building a friendship with a new man. You can start it. You can set the pace. The ball is in your court. After your exhaustive research and preparation, you are in the perfect position to decide how to proceed. There are many ways. Whenever I'm asked which one I recommend, I usually say that it's a personal choice for the individual involved. But really speaking, I think I only say that to make the person feel important, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, you can't beat a letter. If you can afford to send it recorded delivery, then all the better. You'll have bought yourself some peace of mind, inasmuch as you can be sure that it will get where it's going. But Keith, a letter seems so impersonal, when what you're doing is essentially extending the hand of friendship. Yes, I understand your point of view, but what you have to understand here is that I'm not talking about a brief, typed note. I'm talking about a letter. A proper, handwritten, 10 to 12-page letter, in which you can really express your feelings and, if necessary, do a few drawings as well. This way, he will know that you are an honest man, a sensitive man, an open book. On the subject of books, don't make the mistake that so many men make at this delicate stage. Don't write a book for him. As touching and genuine a gesture as that might seem to you, there's an above-average chance that such an act would only serve to alarm him. It would be too much. He'd think you were mad, what I call a nutter. Of course, we're not all Geoffrey Archer. We don't all have the ability to weave magic with words. For many of us, though, the thought of writing a letter can be a very intimidating one that fills us with dread. Don't worry, I've taken the time to come up with a helping hand for you. I've prepared a cover-all-eventualities, one-stop-shop letter for you to use. Simply copy it onto some nice writing paper and insert the appropriate names in the appropriate places. Good luck. Dear, his name. Congratulations. Your name has been chosen from thousands entered into our prize draw, and I'm delighted to tell you that you have won a... This is where those hours sitting outside his flat really pay off. Insert something you know he likes. New car, jet ski, juice extractor. To claim your prize, simply call this number. Your number, preferably your mobile, so you won't be out when he calls. And speak to one of our operators. Not really, I'm only joking, but I would like you to call that number. Allow me to introduce myself. I was once lucky enough to step out with your girlfriend, the lovely... Her name. In fact, we were married. That's right, it's me. Your name. Maybe she's mentioned me. Maybe she hasn't, it doesn't matter. I'm just writing to wish you all the best and to offer the hand of friendship at this difficult time. The early days of a relationship are often tricky, aren't they? Both for you and her, and of course for you and me. Having said that, you've known her name for longer than you've known me. In fact, I recently discovered you've known her for even longer than I thought you'd known her, if you get my drift. You little tinker. Still, let's let bygones be bygones. It's all water under the bridge now. I know you'll believe me when I say that I couldn't be happier for you. Which is not to say that you haven't got your work cut out. All credit to you for taking on the responsibility of my two little smashers. Insert names of your children as and if applicable. They're wonderful kids, as I'm sure you'll discover. If there are no kids but there is a pet, now is a good time to bring it up, to give a sense of passing on the baton in the big relay race of life, be it in the form of a cat, a dog, or a hamster. Keep an eye on... Insert pet's name. He/she tends to molt and will need worming in June, so think on. He/she was this man's best friend. I hope they'll soon become yours. Anyway, I haven't written to you just so we could chat about worming tablets. It's really so that we can introduce ourselves and arrange to meet up, at your convenience, of course. I notice that you play squash on Tuesday evenings before popping in to see your mum. If the last 6 Tuesdays are anything to go by, you tend to have a window of 15 to 20 minutes in between these two activities. How about then? I could pop down the squash club and we could have a drink. I think this is a super idea, a neutral location, a place for men to meet. Anyway, don't rush into a decision. I know how busy you are. No, I really do. Karate on Monday at 8, squash and mum Tuesday, rugby Thursday at 7:30. Your time is not your own, sir. Your time is not your own. I don't know how you do it, but I do know where. Well, that's all for now. I look forward to your call. Give my love to her name, and their names if applicable. All the best, your name. P.S. I've enclosed some drawings. There we are. It's a winner. An excellent way of breaking the ice. laying down the gauntlet and opening the batting, all in one go. Put on your imaginary glasses and imagine the new man sitting down at his desk, taking out his letter opener and reading your words. Picture this in your mind. See him as clearly as you can see your own feet. What is he wearing? Now listen to him. Hear him breathe in, breathe out, in, out. Maybe a slight cough. Is he an asthmatic? It's unlikely, but if he is, pop in a gentle wheeze. Build up this mental film layer by layer, piece by piece, until you can see how he reacts to what he finds in your letter. In your mind, how is he reacting? Puzzlement? Maybe. Anger? No, definitely not. Pleasure? Is he smiling? Yes, he is. It's a hit. Your letter is a big hit. Ha ha! Look, he's dancing around the room, waving the letter in the air. Now he's skipping through to the kitchen, where your ex-wife is cooking with your ex-children. Oh, they're hugging each other with glee as they reread your words. What a wonderful mental image you've created. Well done! When you do get an actual response from him, hang on to this mental image. Hold it close to you, like a shield. Kick off. Well, there we are. Do you remember how I earlier likened getting to know your ex-partner's new partner to the first day at primary school? Well, we return to that analogy now, as, just like a concerned parent, I have to let go of your hand and back away slowly but firmly as you stand there before me, crying and shaking uncontrollably. It's upsetting for me. It's upsetting for you. There's no getting away from it. That's just how it is. But with all that you've learned from this step, I've every confidence that you'll soon be looking on her man as a new player in your very own team, of which you are the captain. Sometimes, when your ex finds herself with a very successful, dynamic man, what I call an alpha male, it can feel like he is the captain and you are just one of the team. Sometimes, just a substitute, sat on the bench with no hope of getting your tracksuit off. That's okay. Before you let him into your life, you were a lone sprinter. Now you're a part of the team. Or squad. What have we learned from step 7? Now I know. Some people can't bear the thought of beginning a relationship with their ex-partner's new partner. Holiday friendships can turn sour. Everyone loves a letter. End of step 7. Step 8. Land ahoy. Setting sail for happiness. I am sailing. Rod Stewart. I am sailing. Sail on, Silver Girl, sail on by. Simon and Garfunkel. Bridge over troubled water. I will go sailing no more. Michael Crawford. The Disney album. Well, here we are. We've reached step 8 together and in one piece. Well done. It's at around this stage of the whole divorce experience that many people ask the same question. What now? Here's a letter I received recently that highlights the sort of thing I'm talking about. It's from Mark Baker, a 34-year-old man from Glasgow in Scotland. He attended one of my talks and decided to write to me. His divorce went well. He sees a lot of his children and is on good terms with his wife. Work is fine. He was recently promoted to area manager for both Glasgow and Edinburgh, and he's looking forward to a canoeing holiday with friends in mid-Wales. Yet still he's unhappy as he wonders what to do next. Over to you, Mark. Dear Keith, hello. My name is Mark Baker. I'm 34 years old. I came to see you giving one of your talks earlier this year and thought that you might be able to help. I am recently divorced, and I suppose I have to say that it went very well. I see a lot of my children and get on well with my ex-wife. At work, things are very good. I was recently promoted to area manager for both Glasgow and Edinburgh. Later this year, I'm going to mid-Wales for a canoeing holiday with friends, yet I'm still unhappy as I wonder what to do next, where to take my life. I was hoping that you might be able to help. Regards, Mark Baker. What do you think? How do you react after listening to this much of the recording to Mark's dilemma? Well, I think your reactions can be broken down as follows. Why is he not happy? How could he be happier? Doesn't he sound similar to the other letter writers? All perfectly understandable reactions, but I was more concerned with something else. What got my alarm bells ringing was the sudden mention of suicide in the last but one line. I couldn't understand why someone with so much to live for would suddenly talk about a desire to take my life. Then again, of course, Mark does hail from Glasgow in Scotland, and as we established earlier in this audiobook, Step 1, Something's Not Right, it is the doer Scots who are most likely to do something silly. Mark's words seem to bear out the research, which is a great shame, as on many levels he seems to have got so much to live for. Still, the letter is a cry for help, and as such shall not go unanswered. If he is set on ending it all, then it's my pleasure to offer up a list of options to answer the question, where can I take my life? Nowadays, there are many and varied ways of ending it all. I've listed some of the more obvious traditional ones, and also a few newer, more left-field ways. Goodbye, cruel world. Pills. Firearms. Tall buildings. In front of a bus. Moving. In the bath. Beachy head. Strangulation. Drowning. Mass events organised on the internet. Joining a religious cult. As the FBI are banging on the door, you drink down the hastily distributed sleeping draught with promise of reuniting with your glorious leader in the sixth dimension. All the above are ways to consider if you've reached the end of your tether. If you have, then one of the last things to feel is alone. You're in fine company. Through the ages, many of the great and good have chosen the last resort as a last resort, or their way of bidding adieu to this life. Here is a smattering. Adolf Hitler, Rudolf Hess, Joseph Goebbels, Heinrich Himmler, Hervé Villechaize, Fantasy Island. Keith, what are you saying? Are you encouraging poor Mark to commit suicide? Of course I'm not. Only a fool would play with fire in that way. What I'm actually doing is something much cleverer. I'm carrying out an intervention, shocking him into his senses by going along with his wishes. I'm sure that if he's mentioned his plans to friends, they'll have said something like, "Oh no, Mark, don't do it, please don't." If anything, this will only have encouraged him. On the other hand, my approach will wrong-foot him and make him stop dead in his tracks and take stock. Like trying to get a small child to eat broccoli, sometimes it's psychological warfare. With my little smashers, I well remember trying to persuade them of the health benefits of vegetables in general. To no avail, it was a constant battle, and one that I was losing until one day I turned the whole situation on its head. I denied them vegetables, telling them that they weren't old enough yet. Only big boys could eat vegetables in this house. Oh, you should have seen them. They went ballistic. The table was upturned, food went everywhere, and voices were raised. But they ate the vegetables. All of them. It was a hit, a success, a triumph. In one afternoon, I had turned around their eating habits through the simple technique of reverse psychology. I'll never forget Marion's face when she got home later that day and untied me. Absolute delight. As the EastEnders might say, sorted. So Mark, go on, do it. You know what? I don't think you're big enough. Not big enough to commit suicide. Of course you're big enough for that. There's no height restriction. See Hervé Villechaize above. No, I mean not big enough to carry on living like the rest of the grown-ups. You just haven't got it in you, you big wet blanket. Death is the best thing for you. Don't worry, I'm just goading him into taking an anti-suicide stance, like Mel Gibson at the beginning of one of the Lethal Weapon films, where he forces the depressed man to jump off the building with him. Mark will be infuriated by my words. He will now see living as a challenge to be conquered. But what if this doesn't work? All right, let's try another method. Who remembers word switching from earlier in the recording? We've already referred to suicide as doing something silly in an effort to take the sting out of its tail. Well, let's word switch again, but this time let's switch to a different word. How about this? silly, stupid. That's right. Silly becomes stupid. And stupid, in turn, becomes silly. Silly, stupid, silly, stupid, silly, stupid. Do you see? By the clever use of word switching, we've taken the light-hearted element out of suicide and reinforced the fact that it's a terrible thing to do, a bad thing to do, a stupid thing to do. Now then, take that word, stupid, and turn it into a mantra. Picture the word in your head. Imagine that it's made out of huge pieces of rock, or, if you're a music fan, imagine it in big red neon lettering, like Elvis had in his Elvis Presley in his 1968 comeback special. Picture it in your mind. See it. Huge red letters flashing on and off. Remember, it's stupid that we want to see, not Elvis. As you see the word in your mind, begin to say it to yourself. Stupid, 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 etc. How do you feel now? Exactly. Stupid. Who wants to do something they know is stupid? Anyone? No one. Problem over. Full steam ahead. And so we enter a new chapter of your life, not of the audiobook. In terms of the audiobook, this is just a new part of the same chapter. A chapter that will contain challenges aplenty. I know that if you use the techniques that I have taught you in making divorce work, you will be able to make not just your divorce, but also your whole life work. Indeed, there's a danger with an audiobook like this that you could become too happy, too contented, too well-adjusted if you're not careful. If you feel that this is a possibility, simply listen again to some of the key steps and do exactly the opposite of what I suggest. It's a bit of fun. So, to return to my earlier question, what now? Well, that's up to you, and, depending on the size of the financial responsibility of your divorce settlement, your ex-wife, or husband, but probably wife. How much you have to pay out every month in spousal maintenance will have an effect on what you can or cannot do with your life now. But is money that important? Is it the be-all and end-all that dictates the extent to which you can enjoy your life and experience for the first time a sense of dignity, bringing to an end the overwhelming feeling of self-loathing? I think so, yes. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Supermarkets often give out little nibbles for free, but they're at best a snack, far from a balanced meal. Having said that, I know for a fact that in parts of London, like the Embankment, free meals are regularly given out to the homeless. Ironically, many of the poor, filthy hobos are only living rough after disastrous, painful marriages that end with them splitting from their wives. In all honesty, who can blame their wives for leaving them? Frankly, many of them are very shabby and stink of booze. In that sense, we can see that divorcing can often mean a fast track to a free meal. Speaking of freedom, your freedom will have cost you, both emotionally and financially, but I urge you not to let that hold you back. Now that you are sailing out of the port of divorce, you can steam onto the dry land of happiness at a rate of knots, being careful not to run aground on the sandbank of alimony, sunning yourself on the poop deck as you go. As you embark on this sea quest, please think of making divorce work as your breadfruit and vitamin C. Now that you're actively searching for a new mate, the last thing you need is scurvy. But at which islands of opportunity and experience do you want to drop your anchor? After all the emotional upheaval you've been through, you hardly want to just drift around without a care in the world. It's important to know where you want to go. It's important to set goals. Goals. Such a perfect day. Duran Duran, perfect day. I'm not perfect, but I'm perfect for you. Grace Jones, I'm not perfect. It's got to be perfect. Fairground Attraction, perfect. In his wonderful book, Change Your Life in 7 Days, Paul McKenna talks about the importance of setting goals. He calls them the servants of a better life. What does he mean by that? Well, one thing's for sure, he's not advocating slavery. He's not jumping up on his soapbox and preaching a return to the dark days of Deep South plantation-based systematic racism. He would never say that. I think what he's actually saying is that goals can help us all to enjoy better lives, and that, like servants, they can bring the better things to us. Paul would be the first person to admit that he himself has set goals in his life, not least to have a #1 best-selling self-help book. Of course, he achieved that goal with Change Your Life in 7 Days. It's a runaway hit. I wouldn't be at all surprised, though, to hear that a perfectionist like Paul McKenna lies awake at night, kicking himself for not whittling away at the book for that little bit longer and getting it down to 6 days. But there we are. That's the danger of perfectionism. The chance that nothing, no matter how hard you try, will ever be good enough for you. Look at Van Gogh, another suicide. I wonder if he had as high an opinion of his sunflowers as we do. Probably not. There must have been loads of occasions when he looked at the canvas and just saw a pile of badly drawn daffodils. Did Sylvia Plath, another one, chuckle merrily at the bell jar, or did she just see a mess of punctuation and letters? We'll never know. What we do know is that all three of them, Vincent van Gogh, Sylvia Plath and Paul McKenna, set themselves goals on an almost daily basis, and it worked for them. Only a fool would speculate that the suicides themselves were also goals, but I think it's worth considering. The tragic Sylvia Plath has the added honour of being portrayed on film by Gwyneth Paltrow. It's tantalising to think that had she lived, we may have been fortunate enough to hear her words put to music by Chris Martin for his band The Coldplay, and played to a crowd of thousands at a massive free trade benefit concert with support spots from Travis and Shaggy. It wasn't to be. Which goals? We've seen how important it is to set goals in our lives, but what exactly should these goals involve? Should they be small goals, easily achievable, middle-size, fairly challenging goals, or crazy, pie-in-the-sky madness that you haven't got a hope in hell of achieving? What do you think? Which one, in your opinion, is the best choice? Have you made your choice? OK. I'm willing to bet that you chose either the small or middle-sized goal because you thought they were more achievable. After all, what chance would you have of achieving crazy, pie-in-the-sky madness? Do you know what my answer is to that? Plenty chance. The bigger the goal, the better. That's what I say. The bigger the goal, the easier it is to score. Footballers know this to be true. They would sell their grannies to have bigger goals. Not all footballers, obviously. I'm talking primarily about midfield and attacking players. For defenders and goalkeepers, the notion of bigger goals is an absolute nightmare. It's appalling. Also, it wouldn't work for any adopted players. They would have to sell a legal guardian. But you take my point. The bigger, the better. That's what they'd say if you asked them. And so should you. Make your goals enormous. Look at rock sensation Darius Danesh. He could have quite easily drifted through life with a goal no bigger than wanting to sing a Britney Spears song on television while sporting ridiculous facial hair. That would have been enough for some people, but not for Darius. He was aiming higher. He wanted to do something that would make a difference to the world. Unlike Paul McKenna, who takes a quieter, subtler stance in his fight against a return to slavery, Darius locked himself in his room and, ironically, slaved away for days with his pen and pad until he had produced a song that was to change the way we think about race. Colourblind was released to a waiting world on the 29th of July 2002. And whilst I don't know much about music, I know what I like. We'll be humming this one for years to come, regardless of our skin tone. Darius had achieved both his goals, and so can you, but not until you know what your goal is. There are as many goals as there are people. Take your family as an example. Each member will harbour their own dreams. Wait a minute, Keith. I thought we were talking about goals, not dreams. What the heck are you playing at? Ah, that's my point, don't you see? Goals are dreams. There. Is it becoming clearer? We all have dreams. What are yours? To score the winning goal at the FA Cup final. Actually, that's a bad example. I'm overplaying the goal card. Winning Wimbledon. The tennis show, not the South London borough. To raise a happy family? To steer the QE2 into Sydney Harbour? To reintroduce free milk into Britain's schools? If you're a lady, to win Miss World? To host a revival of the BBC's The Great Egg Race? To sing with the Red Hot Chili Peppers? To find a cure for smallpox? To run a marathon? To do a bungee jump? To own a DVD player? To join an adult education course? Oh, what a great set of goals. What a great set of dreams. And you know what? There's no reason for you not to achieve them. Years ago, we thought it was impossible to run a mile in 4 minutes. Why, some people found it hard just running for 4 minutes. Then Roger Bannister did it, and whoosh, a dream had come true. Nowadays, lots of people have done it. Although, to be honest, it's still beyond most people and should only be attempted if you're at the peak of your fitness. There are certain groups that should give this a wide berth. Asthmatics, diabetics, the morbidly obese, and nowadays Roger Bannister. Mind you, in the case of the morbidly obese, they have to give everything a wide berth. It's a bit of fun. Any dream will do. Stephen Gately, Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So the time has come to choose your goal. The time has come to choose your dream. Are you excited? You should be. Okay, put on your gloves. There we go. I want you to imagine that you're in a fine restaurant, sat at a table laid out with the best silverware and goblets full of very old wine. As you look around, you notice that the restaurant is full of famous people. Ooh, there's Lord Nelson. There's JFK. Look, it's Judy Finnegan. You sit in your plush red velvet seat and the waiter approaches with a menu. But it's not a menu of food. It's a menu of dreams, a dream menu. As you read it, you realize that it contains every dream imaginable, and then some. What can I get you, sir? Inquires the crusty old retainer. How do you reply? Bring me it all. I want everything. Sorry, could I have a few more minutes? Amazing. What a restaurant. It's a smorgasbord. Now, when you think of your future, post-divorce, imagine that you're sitting at the best table in the restaurant, choosing your dream. Once you've made your choice, tell the waiter, your mind, which meal you've chosen, which dream, and get ready to eat it, act it out, for the rest of your life. Whilst I encourage you to write down your dreams and to act on them, I have to point out at this stage that if a goal is a dream, then just like a bad dream, being chased through a forest on a bike, drowning in an enormous bucket of milk, getting trapped inside a red postbox and concussed by a falling postcard, walking through the high street without your trousers on, hurting a bear, that sort of thing. It's also possible to have bad goals. Having bad goals is the equivalent of a superhero using his powers for evil, and though I don't approve of censorship, I do in this case, and have to take a stand against bad goals. Fine, Keith. That's hardly a surprise. We're all against bad goals. But sometimes it can be hard to tell the bad from the good. What, in your opinion, Keith, constitutes a bad goal? I hear you say. Well, we all have our own ideas of what a bad goal is. There are as many bad goals as there are bad people. Here are a few that I think are awful. To become the biggest drug dealer in the northeast of England, with a massive network of underworld contacts that spreads overseas, hiding the cash in offshore banks or postal accounts with a slightly higher rate of interest than an over-the-counter variety. To hold the record for the largest number of hostages taken at any one time. To become the first person to swear on the midweek lottery draw televised live to the nation in front of Carol Smiley. These are, by anyone's standard, very bad goals, bordering on evil. Now, let's do an exercise together. Get a pen or pencil, not a felt tip or marker pen, it'll show through to the other side, and write down 3 of your own bad goals. 3 of the very worst things you could aspire to in life. Take your time to come up with 3 things that are personal to you. Don't just copy mine. Unless they happen to match yours, in which case feel free. When you finish the list of bad goals, compile a list of good goals. Again, just 3. Finished? Great. Now that you have these 2 very special lists, you are in your strongest position yet to look at your life as it is right now, at this very moment, and make a definite judgment as to where you're at and just how bad things really are. Look at both of the lists at the same time. What do they tell you about your personality? Do they surprise you? They shouldn't. They're your lists, and therefore your goals. Now that you've grown in confidence, use the 2 lists as a map to consult as you ramble onward into this new, happier period of your life. Ready to start a new relationship, fully armed with the knowledge you've acquired from making divorce work. Think of the good goals as your directions, and the bad goals as warning signs of areas to avoid, like an oil spill, an old uncovered mineshaft, or an unsafe bridge. Above all, use the lists. As with all the excellent advice that I've dispensed throughout this audio book, listening to it is only the first part of the process. In fact, it's not even the first part. It's a part of the first part. You'll have to listen to everything several times for it to sink in. Then, you'll have to act on it. Action. This is vital. Think of it once again as being in a wonderful restaurant. All around you are fantastic dishes cooked to perfection. As you breathe in through your nose, your senses come alive. You take some time to peruse the menu, choosing carefully from its mouth-watering array. You make your choice, the dish arrives, but until you've eaten it, you won't have had the full experience or seen the full picture. You have to follow through. Who was it that once said, "A winner never quits, and a quitter never wins"? Well, most recently it was me, and I think I'm right. In many ways, it's like being an actor who has been given the greatest script ever written. He can read the script and know it's good. He can learn the script and know it's good. But until he acts the script, he's not going to feel like the part or play it convincingly. Even when he knows the part off by heart, he may still not play it convincingly. I'm thinking of Hollyoaks. It's like the phrase that youngsters and gangster rappers use. You can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? Or, tell it to the face because my hand isn't listening. In other words, you have to start to implement my advice. Now. Role play. You're in a restaurant. You're alone and hungry. The restaurant is one of the finest in the country, and the smell of beautifully prepared food is heavy in the air. The waiter approaches. Waiter. Good evening, sir. Would you like to see the menu? You. Yes, please. That'd be very nice, thank you. The waiter hands you the menu. You take it and smile. You. Thank you, that's lovely, thank you. As you read the menu, you hear the waiter begin to talk. Our speciality today is the sea bass. Why don't you have that? This is you. Sea bass. Yes, I like sea bass. Thank you, I'll have the sea bass. That'll be lovely. Sea bass. I'm looking forward to my sea bass. The waiter notes your order and leaves. He returns 5 minutes later with a beautiful, freshly cooked sea bass. He places it on the table in front of you. Which of the following 3 replies do you give? A. Sea bass. Lovely. Thank you very much. Here I go, tucking into my sea bass. B. That's fine. Just leave it there, but I doubt that I'll eat it. The important part was ordering it. C. That's not what I ordered. I'm allergic to sea bass. Which reply did you choose? Each reply will say something different about you. I wish there was some way of knowing what you chose. If you ever bump into me in your travels, please remember which choice you made and we can have a chat about it then. Good luck. So what have we learned in step 8? Now I know. Goals are good. Make yours big. Aim for something you know you'll never achieve. Suicide is rarely the answer. Ordering the food is only the first step of the journey. Vegetables can be fun. End of step 8. Step 9. If you're the sort of person who enjoys a quiz, you're going to love this part of the audiobook. Why? Because it's a quiz. This audiobook has by now armed you with everything you need to know about the exciting world of separation. To see exactly how much you've learned, you should answer all the following yes/no questions. Be honest with your answers. If not, it'll only be yourself that you're cheating. Question 1. Are you male? A. Yes, Keith. Yes, Keith, I am male. I'm a man. I could be a boy, but it's far more likely that I'm a man. Happy to be a man. I'm at ease with my male gender. Yes. B. No. Question 2. Are you married? A. Yes, Keith, I am. I've met a wonderful person. I've committed myself for life to my significant other. I am happy to confirm my married status. I can safely say I'm feeling a little smug with myself. Or B. No. Question 3. Are you divorced? A. Well, you are a little blunt in your asking. I have no problem answering your questions, but is it right to just blurt them out? I'm fine, but others might be more fragile. It's not the nicest thing in the world to have thrown at you. But if you're insisting I answer, then it's easiest just to say yes. Not my fault, but yes. All right, it was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It does take 2 to tango. Or is your answer B? No. Question 4. Are you romantic? A. Given the opportunity, yes. But you must realise in this day and age, sending gifts and letters to people unsolicited can often be misinterpreted. I think if the first 2 bouquets and heart-shaped balloons haven't worked, it's very unlikely you'll get any positive response. Then you're barking up the wrong tree and the whole thing is probably going to end in tears. Out of your league, pal, out of your league. However, I think everyone enjoys a sunset. Or is it answer B? No. Question 5. Do you have a high sex drive? A. That's it, isn't it? It's all some people think about. You soften me up with questions about romance, then go straight for the jugular. In this area, I'm completely normal, happily normal. What's normal? Well, I suppose above average covers it. I will not be made to look a fool by the likes of you. Or is it answer B? No. Question 6. Are you a parent? A. Oh, this is a lovely question. Happy to answer this one. In fact, you can get rid of most of the rubbish you're asking and ask me this dozens of times. Yes, I am a parent. A happy parent with smashing children that are a credit to me. Sometimes they can get a little out of hand, but that's high spirits. A lot of the playing fields have been sold off by the schools, so is it any wonder they have so much excess energy? I really think my kids are beginning to turn a corner and we can put it all behind us. Moving to a completely new area seemed at first to be an admission of failure, but I think it's given the whole family a much-needed shot in the arm, which is ironic in itself if you think about where it all started. Or is it B? No. Question 7. Do you believe men and women are equal? A. Yes, of course. If you got on the wrong side of my mother, she could give you a hell of a wallop. Whereas my dad seemed to be in his own little world. He loved his gardening. Or is it B? No. Question 8. Do you have a pet? A. Not officially. The landlord doesn't want animals in the house, but I have smuggled in a gerbil. It's for the kids, really. When they come to visit, it helps make the place feel more like home. Or is it B? No. Question 9. Are you happy? A. Mustn't grumble. I'll be honest, the last couple of years have been a real kick in the pants. But what is happy? I've got a few quid left at the end of the week and a 36-inch plasma screen in the front room, so things can't be that bad. Or is it B? No. Question 10. Are you in love? A. Trick question. Impossible to say at this stage. It's early days and I don't want to jinx it. Or is it B? No. Question 11. Are you separated? A. Yes, well, when you say separated, it sort of suggests that it's over, but the blow is being softened by an artificial period of delay that gives me the chance to get used to my loved one shacking up with someone else. I resent you implying that it's all over. If you knew how strongly we felt for each other, you wouldn't even ask that. It's just so difficult sometimes. I just feel overwhelmed. Or is it B? No. Question 12. Do you avoid conflict in a relationship? A. I never started, if that's what you mean, but if trouble rears its head, then I won't back down. Why should I? I live here too. I pay half the bills. If someone, who shall remain nameless, could handle their drink, then there would be no rows at all. But of course, it's all my fault. I make them feel confined, and a drink in the evening is the only thing that makes them feel young again. Well, I'm the one who has to clean it up. Or is it B? No. Question 13. Are you healthy? A. Yes. I certainly tried to exercise and watch my weight. I tried the Atkins, but I never really got on with it. Actually, it never got on with me. I've stopped taking sugar in my tea, and I'm thinking of doing a fun run. Or is it B? No. Question 14. Are you competitive? A. I don't think it's a problem. I like to win, but I'm not mad about it. What's the point of entering a competition if you don't try and win? I think it's important to teach children to lose gracefully. If that makes me some kind of lunatic, then so be it. Or is it B? No. Question 15. Do you seek conflict in a relationship? A. Here we go. What's been said? Is this about Christmas? All I said was that I'm not staying for a week with a family that obviously doesn't approve of me. If they want to see their grandchildren that much, they can travel down and stay in the spare bedroom. I don't care what they say. She's only 67, and I've seen her sprinting downstairs when EastEnders comes on, so I think it's a bit far-fetched to pretend she can't use public transport. I suppose that counts as a yes, by your standards. Typical. Or is it B? No. How did you score? If you scored mainly yes, very well done. You're honest. Maybe a little too honest. Perhaps it would be worth having a long, hard look at yourself and see why you're pushing the world away. On the other hand, you might not want to. Did you score mainly no? Oh, why don't you come down from that ivory tower once in a while and smell the coffee? If you spend less time looking down your nose at everyone else, you might see that you're not so perfect yourself. On the other hand, you may be perfectly happy. That's all right. Did you score half and half? Lovely. What a nice, even-tempered, easy-going individual you are. No problem. Unless, of course, you have a problem, in which case get help as soon as you can. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen, listeners. We've reached the end of the audiobook recording of Making Divorce Work. I know that it will have been a great help to you. Thank you so much for taking the time and money to buy it, and I hope and know that you're now going to move forward into a brand new phase of your life as you make not just divorce, but your whole life work. This is Keith Barret saying, bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.